So if playing to win is a model for strategy, and client-focused innovation is a model for testing out strategy and trying to refocus on clients, trying to think about innovation from a new lens, then what Creative Difference is a way of measuring what are the attitudes and behaviors inside of different teams as they try and launch new solutions, whether that's within a functional group or that's in a business unit. And so Creative Difference in the short is a tool, an assessment that we built based on 40 years of our work out in the world, as well as the latest academic research to try and surface what are the kinds of behaviors that best impact or best that lead to the best outcomes and the best launch success rates of strong innovators. And so we really find that there are a number of really key qualities that tend to drive really good innovation within different companies. And we find is there are really 6 of them that we can unpack. And the first one is purpose. I know this has been a big conversation recently with El Propósito within Alicorp, which is a big question around why does the company exist beyond just making a profit? So what's the outcome or the guiding star that the company has so that everyone can say, we're all in agreement that we want to create this. No matter what we're building or launching or what we're doing, this is our main goal. So that's purpose. Second, we talk about looking out, which is what's the organization's posture toward getting inspiration. How do you talk to your, how do you get inspiration from your markets, from your consumers directly, from the technology that you use? What are all the sources of inspiration that you're gathering? Third, we look at experimentation. How are you testing out your ideas? Are you doing it in low fidelity ways, in high fidelity ways that are much shinier and further along? Are you doing user testing directly? Are you doing modeling, computational modeling around how your solution might work? Next, after experimentation, we look at collaboration, which is what are the conditions of collaboration within teams as well as across teams? How easy is it to get help from other people inside other parts of Alicorp in the things that you're working on? And how do people describe what it's like to work at Alicorp and the culture? So we look at all these things to pull out a collaboration score. The next one is empowerment, which is how much autonomy do you have? What's the level of risk tolerance that you have? How well do you understand the decisions that leaders are making and why they're making those decisions? So these are all the factors that start plugging into empowerment. And then the last thing that we find is really critical for getting good innovation out the door is a factor that we like to call refinement, which is what's the process like for you to iterate and revise your concepts as you go? How well do you stick to the initial inspiration that inspired the idea to begin with? How well is that held on to from beginning all the way to launch? And how much do people feel like they're able to grow within their level of expertise? So for people who are not in, say, a management track, but they're getting deeper and deeper expertise in a given functional area, how much do they feel like they're able to grow and expand that? And how much are others able to tap into that expertise and bring it onto the projects that they're working on? So we look at these 6 factors as being the strongest contributing factors to whether or not the solutions that you launch in market are successful. And so Alicorp took Creative Difference in 2019. A lot of crazy things happened in 2020. So they made the decision not to share the scores more broadly across Alicorp right away, but we had 1,600 responses from across every region, every business, every functional unit in Alicorp. Where we're able to score all of these things from every vice presidency. And we would love to ask you a series of questions of number one, when you think about Alicorp or you think about the business unit that you're in, where do you think you most need to improve? Is it in purpose, in looking out or seeking inspiration, in experimentation, in collaboration, empowerment, or refinement? And we'll have a survey popping up right now. There you go. So if you could put your chips down, where do you think Alicorp needs to improve? And I love getting stars. That's great. We also know this is a really tough year for many business lines, which is always, I think, an interesting time to say, what does Alicorp really value? It's a great way to show we're making investments in what areas because we believe in what. Cool. All right, we got about 50% of you have reported in. That's pretty good. You know, share the result. Yeah. Cool. So people said experimentation and empowerment seem to be the two biggest areas. Yeah, that's really interesting to say. You know, how do we make the conditions inside the business more conducive to autonomy, especially when we're working in a COVID land where we're all in Zoom all day long, as well as experimentation. How do we think about doing things in lightweight ways? I think a lot of us as leaders tend to push for, do we have the right answer, and what data do you have to suggest that we have the right answer? That feels like a great way to open the door to experimentation and to say, how can we make it easier for teams to experiment? So cool. Thank you for doing that. Our next big question for you, if that's what Alicorp needs to improve, what do you think that Alicorp today does best? What is Alicorp just awesome at? I feel bad because I get to watch your answers come in. So we get to see these bars move up and down, and there's a great like active debate on my screen that you may not be seeing, but excited to see when we share it out. All right, we got about 40 responses in, 50. We'll stop it somewhere around 60. Cool. Oh, these are all over. This is great. Nice. Okay. I see three big buckets. So one is Alicorp is really awesome at purpose. There's been a lot of focus, I know, over the last couple of years to talk about Alimentamos un Mañana Mejor, and to say that we really are invested in that, and how do we use that to define the things that we need to do internally and the things we need to do with our products. And that's really cool. Looking out, that there's this great posture toward research. We know there have been waves of this over time, that Alicorp has gone through different phases of engaging with consumer insights or user insights. I think it's a great question of how much does looking out come to life inside your business unit if you're not in like CMP or you're not in Soluciones. And then collaboration. Yeah, I mean, I've found that in every interaction I've had with people at Alicorp, everybody is wonderful. There's a lot of flexibility and willing to support each other. And it also feels like there's a score that we look at called network informality, which is how easy is it to get help from other people inside the company. And that's always a really high score for Alicorp. So cool to see. Thank you for doing that. Nice. So one more big question for you, which is, when you look across these factors, which of these do you think is the most important or has the largest impact on improving your success when you launch new things into the world? Nice. All right, they're coming in. I feel like I should have quiz show music play while the polls are going. Do 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 do. These are great. Okay, cool. We have a whole bunch of responses in. Let's share the results. All right, so a lot of people think experimentation. We've talked a lot about prototyping in here, and I think experimentation is a big one. Looks like closely followed by empowerment and then purpose. Yeah, it's really interesting. It's hard to unpack which of these is the most important factor, but a lot of the things that we can start to pull out is we use a dependent variable in running Creative Difference, where we look at what do people report as their launch success rate of new policies or new products or new projects that they're pushing out the door. What's the likelihood that those things will succeed? And what we found in looking at that is that each of these factors has a big impact, but the one that has the most impact is actually empowerment. We find that teams who have a high level of autonomy and a high level of opposability, where they feel like they can really speak their mind, as well as a great deal of process clarity, where they know these are the steps that I'm supposed to go through to get something done the right way, that actually has a 69%. The teams with a high marks on all three of those are 69% more likely to succeed in market than teams who fit the average. Second, we see experimentation, of course, not surprisingly, has a huge impact In fact, the number there is that teams who try 5 or more ideas before committing to one to launch have a 50% higher success rate. And so you'll hear a lot of push from us over the next couple of days to have a lot of ideas, but we also would say test a lot of ideas. Because if you're testing 5 things that are just a sales brochure, a piece of paper, you can get a lot better outcomes than if you just take one thing all the way to market. And then the third one I'd call out is collaboration, which is that teams that work across different functions daily, when you have really tight collaboration across functions, you find their success rate goes up almost 40%. So really amazing outcomes. We can talk about any of these in more detail, but I know that we probably have Alvaro waiting in the wings, so I think we'll keep trugging along.